Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. I'm your host, Calvin Timms. You can find me over on Twitter at TDC_Calvin. You can find my awesome co-host, Dale, over on Twitter at Dynasty_Dale. And we're excited because this week we have a coaching roundup. We're going to be talking about all the coaches that are new head coaches, new OCs across the league, and the fantasy impacts. So, in full transparency, this is coming out on Monday. We're recording a little bit early. If you've been following, I did have a cold last week, and we're recording this early, so I still have the cold. Hopefully by the next one, I will be a little bit more recovered. But so if my voice gives out at all during this first episode, I apologize. But no, we're going to be jumping into some coaches. So what are your thoughts, Dale? You liking these coaches? How you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I like the majority of these coaches, and there are also some very interesting coaching changes that
Yes, sir.
I don't really like. I'll be honest. So,
We'll save them for that episode. I think we both like this one.
absolutely.
So we're going to kick it off with probably the most substantial, I would say, change, head coaching change so far. So, all in all, there's five openings for head coaches. You got Denver, you've got the Carolina Panthers, you've got Arizona, Indy, and Houston. So at the time of recording this, Indy and Arizona still have not filled their openings at all. So we might not have we might have to wait another week to get those two out at this point. It's just ridiculous how long they're dragging their feet on this. Now, Arizona makes a little bit of sense because supposedly nobody wants to play with that roster because it sucks. And then they also don't want to play with Kyler, which not great. So there's that, but they'll hopefully have it filled by next week. I guess we'll find out. But the most impactful one, the only guy that wasn't signed as a free agent for a head coach, is going to be Sean Payton to the Denver Broncos, coming over via trade from the New Orleans Saints. Now, the full trade terms were the number 29 overall pick in this year's draft, and a second rounder next year in the 2024 draft for Sean Payton, and a 2024 third round pick. So they kind of did a 2-for-3 swap next year, and then gave up the 29th overall pick for Sean Payton. So the first thing I want to talk about is I've seen so many people bad-mouthing this trade for a coach. It's like, why would you give up any assets whatsoever for a coach? Sean Payton is a Hall of Fame coach, first off. Just to be
100%,
clear there.
100%.
Yep. So, the last couple coaches that have gotten traded the last couple years, it hasn't been for anything much, like a 5th-round pick or 3rd-round pick or something like that. But, it's very, very rare that you're going to be able to get a Hall of Fame coach. The biggest problem with the Denver Broncos in 2022 was we had no idea if it was Nathaniel Hackett that was the problem or Russell Wilson that was the problem. And, I can confidently say Sean Payton will not be the problem. This offense is going to click if it is not, as long as Russell Wilson can still play quarterback, this offense is going to click. So that's the first thing. I do not understand. What is the 29th overall pick? You're more likely to bust on that pick than to hit a good player, and instead you're getting a Hall of Fame coach. You can't just get these guys. And that's the one thing too. I don't think a lot of people understand with coaches. If a player retires, the team owns the rights to that player forever until they come back and complete their contract with them. The coaches, they sign a contract that's for a certain amount of time. That's a little bit different than the players. Why it's different, I don't really know, but it's probably to stop people from sitting out for a couple years and then just leaving the team for free. But coaches, their contracts expire. Sean Payton would not be a free agent until after the 2024 season. So going into 2025, you would have to wait for him for 2 more years. He's not coaching for the New Orleans Saints. He's already come out and said he's done with that team. He's not coming back. So if he's done, and if you want a Hall of Fame coach anytime in the Russell Wilson era to kind of fix him and try and make this offense go again, you have to give something up. So what are your thoughts on the trade, first off?
I honestly think it's a really good trade. I believe the hit rate on first round picks is about 50%, and
It's a little less than, I think it's like 45, but
yeah,
yes.
it's around there, and I think the odds of hitting on Sean Payton, at least for a couple of years, are more than 50%.
Yeah,
In
he's
all
a young
honesty,
guy too.
so
Like he's young.
yeah, he is pretty young, and I think that's a very fair trade for him. I have no qualms about that. I think his contract's pretty interesting. Like I saw that he got like a 5-year deal with like it's like 18 million a year is what I saw, which
Yeah,
is
it's a lot of money.
which is a lot of money. Like I
They got to
almost
compete
wonder
with
how much
Fox.
TV money he was getting. Yeah. I was just about to say like I kind of wonder how much TV money he was
It was
getting.
probably close, like
You know,
15.
so uh, so so I guess if you're a Broncos fan, like you need to go support Walmart because that's who's paying for Sean Payton's contract.
Yep.
So
I think they're doing all right. I think they're doing
I
all
agree.
right. Yeah, but I mean, if you're not going to support Walmart, you're going to support Meijer, or you're going to support Amazon. So you're kind of picking
Exactly.
which devil do you want to support there. So,
Exactly.
yeah, it's pretty rough. So the biggest thing with Sean Payton coming over, again, he's a Hall of Famer. You look at what he was able to do with New Orleans. His first year as a coach, I believe, they went and they won the Super Bowl, the first ever Super Bowl for the New Orleans Saints back in 2009. I didn't actually realize.
Yeah.
I was looking at that.
No, actually Sean Payton started in 2006 right after. It was like right
Okay.
after Hurricane Katrina.
Okay.
And then they got Drew Brees in a trade with the Chargers, and then
That was
and
in
then they
06?
eventually won.
Man, I do not remember that.
That was in 06. It was a long time ago.
That is
Calvin,
a very
trust
long
me.
time ago.
Very long time ago. Yes.
And the funny thing about that is, too, so, everyone looks at Drew Brees as a Hall of Famer now, but he was not considered a great player when he got traded from the Chargers. So, what Sean Payton was able to do with Drew Brees and fix him, that's why people are very excited about what he can do with Russ and letting him cook in this offense. But yeah, he got New Orleans their only Super Bowl victory in their history of the franchise, and they were competitive like almost every year. Now, say what you will, hopefully the GM doesn't do the same kind of crap where they just sell the entire future forever that you're living on on the credit card. But as long as they can keep that in check.
Right. No, I agree. Well, that and that you don't have your defensive coordinator, trying to incentivize players and
Bountygate.
And Bountygate.
Yep.
So I really like Sean Payton. I mean, he is a proven winner. Like his record's 152 and 89.
Yep.
In his,
and they were
like
always competitive.
plus.
Always.
Yes, always competitive. Always at least around 500. Like even on his bad years, he was still 7-9.
Yep.
He has really good offensive schemes. I am very excited for all the wide receivers there.
Yep.
Which I think there's going to be at least 4 fantasy relevant wide receivers. I would think. Well, 3. I would hope at least, but like maybe 4. And then he's going to have a tight end with Dolchich. That's going to be very interesting. And I think it's going to be a good group.
All right, so
coming together.
Going into the weapons of the team, Denver's offensive line is not the best. It could use a little bit of help. It's kind of middle of the pack. It's not the worst. It's not the best. My whole status is just go get the best offensive line, especially when you get a quarterback like Russell Wilson who's getting a little bit older. He's not a spring chicken anymore. So just go get offensive line help. It would have been nice to have that 29th overall pick to go get an offensive lineman late, but you've got second round picks still, so you could definitely make something work there. Free agent as well. Just make sure that this offensive line. But the other big draw for Sean Payton is going to be the free agents. People are going to want to come play for Sean Payton, and it's not always the best guys here, but I think that they're going to be able to draw in a lot more players than what they normally would have, with a Nathaniel Hackett or somebody like that. So there's that piece of it as well. But again, offensive line, middle of the pack, could use a little bit of help, but everywhere else, man, there's really not many holes on this entire roster. The defense is what it is. It's a very, very good defense. It's very young. for the most part. It's getting a little bit older in some spots, but nothing egregious, right? So Justin Simmons is probably their oldest player, and he's from 2016. So, he's getting up there a little bit, but not the oldest player there yet. On the offensive side of the ball, Javonte, it all depends on his health. He might not be healthy to start the season, but they've got Chase Edmonds, they've got Mike Boone, Latavius Murray reconnection with Sean Payton.
Yes.
So that'll be kind of interesting. Marlon Mack. They've got enough guys, and they could even take somebody, in the third round of this upcoming draft and really fill that hole completely, which would be a little bit of a knock for Javonte Williams, but they got to get a guy that they can trust in there. Greg Dulcich, Albert Okwuegbunam at tight end. Russell Wilson is your quarterback. We've seen Russ, and before he came over to Denver, was very highly regarded as a potential Hall of Famer. So there's a lot of potential there and a lot of talent. And then you get to the wide receivers. You got Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, who unfortunately tore his ACL last year, but was very possibly the number one wide receiver for this team. He had a very good connection with Russ based on everything that everyone was talking about. And then KJ Hamler is the fourth guy. They could even draft a guy. Again, you could go round 2 offensive lineman, round 3 wide receiver, maybe running back, and then round 4 wide receiver, kind of flip-flop that. Or, you go target a Juju Smith-Schuster or something like that. And this offense could be humming, man. They already have good players. And again, you look at Sean Payton's offensive schemes, and that's where I think that they're going to make this offense just nasty. It's going to be disgusting to really, from a fantasy perspective. So if you're looking at the wide receivers now, assuming that they bring in another running back, maybe they have it'd be hilarious if they brought in Jahmyr Gibbs, by the way, because
really
of the Alvin Kamara comp that he continues to get. So, you got Latavius Murray and Javonte Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs, so that'd be pretty interesting there. But looking at the wide receivers, who are you most excited about? Is it Jerry Jeudy?
I would say Jerry Jeudy, yes. I think we figured out that, at least for me, that Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton can be the guy, but I think they're solid twos. I don't really think either of those are really the alpha in that offense. So, personally, but I mean, I think this really helps. It's going to help Jerry Jeudy. I mean, I can really see Jerry Jeudy. He doesn't necessarily have as much size as like a Michael Thomas, but I can see him doing a lot of the Michael Thomas stuff. And,
is he the new slant boy?
Hey, whatever it takes. As long as he catches the ball, that's fine.
All right. All right.
I really like Cortland Sutton. I can feel he can be a really solid 2. I'm really excited to see what Tim Patrick can do.
I agree.
I think he's going to be very undervalued, and he's going to be a real steal in draft.
So, you were talking on Jerry Jeudy a little bit there, and I get it. Jerry Judy's a little bit smaller than Michael Thomas, so it's not a 1-to-1 comp there. But the reason why I'm so excited about Jerry Jeudy, he played technically 15 games, but you take out the 2 games he played less than 40% of snaps, 3 games he played less than 40%. There's 1 game where he played 1 snap, and it counts as a game played because he started whatever. So you take out the 3 games that he played less than 40% of snaps. I mean, he had, 93 targets. He had 62 catches for about 900 yards. So, in what is that, 12 games? That is pretty good, man. That is really, really good. He had 6 touchdowns as well. He really started getting it going in the second half again after Nathaniel Hackett got canned. The whole team just looked a lot better. Russ looked a lot better as well. So that's why I believe that there's so much potential here. And that's why I really, really feel like Russell Wilson is an amazing buy right now for fantasy football. I was kind of buying him before the Sean Payton news in anticipation of them going to get Sean Payton, just because it made too much sense because of the Russell Wilson contract. So I think Russell Wilson and Sean Payton is going to be a very good combination. And I believe if you're looking at all of the news stories that are still kind of floating around out there, like there was the press conference that just came out where Sean Payton was talking in the press conference, announcing to the whole world that he's the new coach and all that stuff. It was pretty baller where he just ragged on Nathaniel Hackett and the whole crowd counting down the play clock, which is pretty funny. And he said that's not going to happen here. He felt very confident about that, which I agree. But, he also talked about Russell Wilson and his personnel coach, like his personal side coach being in the building and having access and all that stuff. And he said that's not going to happen. And a lot of people took that as a shot at Russell Wilson. It's like, no, he's just not going to let him in. Like, why? I don't know why people are looking at that as it's a bad thing. Like, okay, no, he's putting his foot down. And Russ, if he respects Sean Payton, which everything kind of points that he does, he's not going to do it. Like, I don't understand. Not everything has to be a drama, right? So I think that right there is going to keep Russell Wilson down. People are like, oh, he's just never changed, not going to change, not going to be fixed. So I think that there's still an awesome buying window for Russell Wilson for fantasy football. And again, I disagree with you. I think Jerry Jeudy has the potential to be a top 10 guy. That's what he was kind of drafted to be, You go back to his rookie class, he was the one-on-one most people took over CeeDee Lamb because of his potential, and we're kind of now seeing it. He's only 23 years old. He was very young when he came out. He's still very, very young as well. And yeah, those stats do not lie. He has so much potential. It's just raw, right? And we just need to see it kind of put together. He has been banged up a little bit, but again, it's kind of freak injuries as well. So Cortland Sutton, I agree with you, is definitely a 2. Tim Patrick or whoever they bring in there, they should still be fine, but I don't think that they're going to be super fantasy relevant. They're going to have spot starts here and there. Same with the running backs. Javonte, if he can come back, he should be fine. But I really anticipate them drafting someone like a Jahmyr Gibbs, maybe a Kendre Miller later on in this draft, which would be awesome for fantasy football. And again, look at what they were able to do in New Orleans. It doesn't necessarily have to be, one guy gets the whole workload. It can be 2 guys that are going to be very fantasy viable for this team. So I am very excited about Sean Payton. Any last thoughts on him?
I am very excited about him. How I see it is if Russ can play very well like he did the last 3 or 4 games without Hackett, I just imagine what he can do with Sean Payton. So if in Dynasty, I would be buying him anywhere I can, because I don't think he's necessarily going to be super cheap as what he was during the season, but he's still going to be probably a little cheaper because people may have that bitter taste in their mouths.
Yeah. Yep. So we'll see. So, and just for reference too, Russell Wilson's last 4 starts for fantasy football, well, it doesn't really matter. I'll just read the stats. Against Kansas City, 23 of 36 for 247 and 3, 1 interception. He had 15 for 27 and 214 for 1 with 3 picks. He's got to get those picks under control there against the Rams. That was like his worst one of these last 4. 26 of 38 against Kansas City again for 222 yards, 1 and 1. And then weeks 18 against the Chargers doesn't really count, but 13 of 24. Like, he was doing all this with less than 30 completions, which is just wild, for 283, 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. So, still had an issue with the interceptions, especially the last couple of games. Like, I think a bulk of his interceptions came. He had 6 interceptions in the last 4 games, but he also had 8 touchdowns. So, considering how slow the season started, he was definitely taking more risk and opportunity there against Kansas City and the Chargers and those guys. So definitely has some potential, and I think that the offensive schemes that Sean Payton is going to come up with is going to definitely help him quite a bit.
Agreed.
All right, so the next guys we're going to talk about here are going to be Nathaniel Hackett and Mike LaFleur. So these two kind of go together. These are new OCs across the league. Mike LaFleur was with the New York Jets, got fired after the season, gets picked up by the Rams to go work under Sean McVay. Not really a substantial change there. He's not going to do anything for the Rams. It's going to be all Sean McVay. He's going to be calling all the plays still over in LA, but the reason why I want to talk on these two guys together, Nathaniel Hackett gets fired by Denver. This whole thing is just all interconnected, right? Nathaniel Hackett gets fired by Denver to get Sean Payton. Mike LaFleur gets fired so that Nathaniel Hackett can go over there. And now Nathaniel Hackett is in charge of Green Bay. He's in charge of the New York Jets. And the reason why this is so impactful is I think that this is another reason why I think that they're going to go get Aaron Rodgers. Now, the impacts of this are very interesting because Nathaniel Hackett as a head coach sucked. He was terrible. It's hard to say, again, going back to Denver, we have no idea if Nathaniel Hackett was the issue or if it was Russell Wilson. He's now in charge of an offense again in the Jets, but he's not the head coach. So he gets a lot of that responsibility taken off his plate that now he can kind of focus on the offensive side of the ball a little bit more. I also think that he's going to be getting someone like an Aaron Rodgers who, doesn't necessarily need all the creative plays as much. He's going to be able to kind of come up with some stuff on his own, a little bit more there, have a little bit more input into it. Those two have a history together, and, it's definitely a risk, though, for the fantasy value of all the Jets players because you're taking this guy that we all thought was egregiously bad as a head coach for Denver, and you're putting him in charge of an entire offense with a lot of potential. You got Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, a lot of these guys. So what are your thoughts on Nathaniel Hackett coming in and replacing Mike LaFleur? And I'll let you talk for a minute here because Mike LaFleur, I have a lot of strong opinions on him. I did not like him whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't think Mike LaFleur did a very good job in New York. I kind of felt that Saleh was trying to just get his guys that were in San Francisco and kind of run with them a little bit. I'm not a super big fan of Hackett. I kind of feel that we have these generational quarterbacks that we see, and then these OCs get head coaching jobs. Like for instance, like with Adam Gase that we saw a few years ago with the Jets, and then with Miami, and then the Jets, then. It turns out poorly, and that's kind of where I think Hackett was. I feel he needs to stay in his lane, being an OC, and I really think the Jets really want to get starting like a competent quarterback other than Zach Wilson and Joe Flacco. So I think that's their biggest goal is to get Aaron Rodgers, which honestly I think was Denver's goal last year.
I agree.
But stuff just didn't work out how they thought it did. And then Rodgers came back to Green Bay, and he went in his little 4-day hut or whatever he did last year.
No, that last year was a 2-week crapping and vomiting binge. So
yes,
dude's a weirdo, man. Like why?
He's very interesting. He is. He's a good quarterback.
Weird person.
Not a great person. Yeah. So, but that's beside the point. All we're talking about is the fantasy value.
Yeah.
So, I think he helps the value of these wide receivers because if you would have a Zach Wilson, like you're not sure what version of Zach Wilson.
If they can get Aaron Rodgers, though, that's the problem.
Right. So, I think the Jets are going to go get somebody.
I agree.
Some vet, maybe it's Jimmy G, maybe they go after Derek Carr, something like that. Like they're going to get somebody that is more competent than Zach Wilson, and that I feel better about because at least you can have some stability at the quarterback position and some more stability with your younger wide receivers, and they won't be complaining every other week that they didn't get the ball enough.
Yeah, it is a pretty funny story. Did you see the one about Elijah Moore going up to Mike LaFleur in practice and telling him that he sucks and he with a lot of expletives and like you're the worst, you effing suck and all this stuff. It was pretty funny in my opinion because my thoughts, Mike LaFleur sucked. He really did. Elijah Moore is not wrong here. When you look at what Mike LaFleur was doing, so, from a fantasy perspective, Garrett Wilson was fine. Yeah, Breece Hall was fine. But from a real-life football perspective, Mike LaFleur's problem was he created a game plan, and he ran that game plan, whether it worked or didn't work. And he had no ability to adjust anything whatsoever. And it was terrible. And, whatever his thoughts are on Zach Wilson, they drafted Zach Wilson, first off. They drafted him. Mm-hmm. You put him in the worst possible situation every single week because, say what you want about Zach Wilson, he's not that good right now, which is fair. But every time he's succeeded so far in the NFL, it's been throwing the 50-50 ball to guys on the sidelines, the guys that he trusts. He doesn't really, and this is a problem, don't get me wrong, it's a problem that he doesn't just throw to the wide open guy. That's not what he does. You should be doing that, but he doesn't do that. He likes to throw the 50-50 ball. Well, all Mike LaFleur did was scheme open guys, which granted is good, but you never played to Zach Wilson's actual strengths. You tried to conform him to your system. That is bad coaching. It's bad. It's just you cannot do that in the modern NFL. If you want to be a good teacher, you have to find a way to get through to your student, and that is Zach Wilson. Now, losing Mike LaFleur, I think, is a bump up for everybody. Even if it is Nathaniel Hackett, I don't think that Nathaniel Hackett is an otherworldly play caller or anything like that. But I do believe that he is going to lock in Aaron Rodgers for this team, which is going to have a positive impact on everyone in the team. There's no way that they're going to go with a veteran guy like a Derek Carr or Jimmy Garoppolo with a first-time offensive coordinator, because if you go back to when Nathaniel Hackett was an offensive coordinator in Green Bay, it was under Mike LaFleur, or Matt LaFleur? Matt LaFleur. The other LaFleur, the brother there. So, he didn't have all the play calling. He wasn't in charge of that. That was Matt LaFleur. So we've never actually seen Nathaniel Hackett running a successful offense. Pairing him with a guy that's an unknown, right? An unknown veteran quarterback that's not Aaron Rodgers is just too risky for the Jets. They want stability, like you mentioned before. Mm-hmm. And I think that the only way that you're going to get that is by trading for Aaron Rodgers. It makes all the sense. We've talked about it 1,000 times already. He's older. It gives Zach Wilson a mentor, and, it just gives you stability in the room. I think that they're going to get Aaron Rodgers, and because of that, Nathaniel Hackett is going to, we're going to have to evaluate what he does, but I think that it's going to be good for all the fantasy options in this team. And it's not directly because of Nathaniel Hackett. We'll have to watch what his play calling can do. But I think that it gets them Aaron Rodgers, and that's going to be a massive uptick for everybody else. So,
No, I agree with that. I think the biggest downfall of the Jets, one of the bigger downfalls the Jets had this past year, was that their offensive line got hurt a lot. Yep. And their younger linemen got hurt. Can't think of the giant tackle's name that they have.
Mickey Becton.
Mekhi Becton.
Mekhi, whatever. Mickey.
And then Elijah Vera Tucker got hurt. Yep. Those guys got hurt, which were their cornerstone pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully those guys come back healthy, and I think they'll have a better shot of competing. I honestly don't want them to compete in the AFC East. I enjoy them being the laughing stock, but I do. I personally enjoy it.
You're a Dolphins fan. I'm a Patriots fan. I feel bad for them at this point, though. I just feel bad for them.
I don't, because they make their own mistakes. But
fair enough. So, all right. So that's our thoughts here on the OC change. It's not as big, but it is pretty impactful. Again, Mike LaFleur going over the Rams means nothing for fantasy.
I agree.
It's still going to be Sean Payton. The Rams' biggest problem is just talent on the team versus the play calling. But I think that Sean Payton is definitely a big change for Denver. Nathaniel Hackett is going to be good for the Jets, and that's only going to be because they are going to be able to get Aaron Rodgers. That's my prediction. I'm going to be sticking by it until we see anything else. So that said, Dale, any last thoughts before we get out of here?
Nope.
All right. That said, if you're following, please like, comment, and subscribe on the video wherever you're listening to it. It just helps us out. We're trying to get to more people, reach more people out there. We appreciate all you guys that tuned in. You can follow me on Twitter at TDC_Calvin, Dale on Twitter at Dynasty_Dale. Hit us up on Twitter, on YouTube, wherever you're looking. If you need any questions answered, any advice, hit us up and we'd be happy to help you all season long. We're going to be putting out the later round of the Superflex startup draft here later this week. Go check that out. Pretty good value. And then we've got a lot of content coming up this whole offseason. So I'm excited to bring it all to you. We're going to get through the coaching changes here this week. We're going to be talking about all of these guys, Frank Reich, D'Amico Ryans, and some of the other offensive coordinator changes as well. We're excited about that. So thank you guys for tuning in. Have a good night.